tonight, we begin a calm journey through one of the most beloved adventure films of all time, Jurassic Park. Letting your mind settle as we drift across Isla Nublar. But before that, my name's Murphy, and I'd love to know where you're listening from, and what time of day it is for you. If this brings you calm, don't forget to subscribe. There are so many more peaceful nights ahead. Now close your eyes and let your mind drift back to the mysterious island. Part 1. Arriving at the island. Our story begins with a man named John Hammond. He's a cheerful older man with a big dream and twinkling eyes that hold the excitement of a child. Hammond has built something extraordinary, a theme park like no other. It's on a remote island off the coast of Costa Rica called Isla Nublar. This island sits surrounded by warm ocean air, gentle waves that lap against volcanic shores, and thick green trees that whisper secrets with every breeze. Hammond isn't just any businessman. He's an entrepreneur who sees magic where others see impossibility. He walks with a cane topped with amber, and his voice carries the warmth of a grandfather telling bedtime stories. His park isn't about roller coasters or carnival games. It's about bringing the past to life in ways that no one has ever imagined. But before he can open the park to the world, Hammond needs experts to approve it. Insurance companies demand safety inspections. Investors want assurance that their money is well spent. So Hammond carefully selects a few people to visit his island paradise and witness his miracle firsthand. The invitation letters are sent quietly, mysteriously. Each recipient receives only hints about what awaits them. Hammond knows that seeing is believing, and what they're about to see will change their understanding of life itself. Experts are invited. First, there's Dr. Alan Grant. He's a paleontologist, which means he spends his days studying ancient dinosaurs through their fossilized bones. Grant is a man of the earth. Someone who finds peace in the quiet work of brushing sand away from million-year-old skeletons. He prefers the silence of dig sites to the chaos of cities. His hands are weathered from years of careful excavation, and his eyes hold the patience of someone who understands that the most important discoveries take time. Grant is currently working at a dig site in Montana, where the summer heat creates shimmering waves above the Badlands. He's focused, methodical, teaching young students how to recognize the difference between a fossil and a simple rock. He doesn't care much for technology or modern conveniences. To him, the old ways of doing things are often the best ways. With him is Dr. Ellie Sattler, a paleobotanist, someone who studies ancient plants and how they lived alongside the dinosaurs. Ellie is warm and curious, with bright eyes that seem to see wonder in everything around her. She has an infectious enthusiasm for her work, often getting excited about a leaf impression in stone or a piece of fossilized wood that others might overlook. She's passionate about understanding how entire ecosystems worked millions of years ago. Ellie and Alan work together as partners in both science and life. They complement each other perfectly. He provides the steady, methodical approach, while she brings energy and fresh perspectives. Their relationship is built on mutual respect and shared fascination with the ancient world. When Hammond's helicopter arrives at their dig site, it creates a small dust storm that sends everyone scrambling to cover their work. The helicopter is sleek and expensive, clearly not the usual transportation for paleontologists. Hammond steps out, looking somewhat out of place in his clean clothes and polished shoes among the dirt and rocks. Hammond surprises them with an offer. Join him for a weekend trip to see something amazing. He's deliberately vague about the details, but his excitement is obvious. Grant is initially reluctant. He has work to do, fossils to catalogue, students to teach. But Hammond is persuasive, and there's something about his enthusiasm that's hard to resist. They agree, unsure of what to expect, but curious about what could make this elderly man so animated. Helicopter ride to Isla Nublar. Soon, they're flying in a helicopter high above the Pacific Ocean. The sky is a brilliant blue, cloudless and endless. The sea below them sparkles like scattered diamonds, and the helicopter's shadow dances across the water's surface. The air is clean and fresh, carrying the salt scent of the ocean through the open windows. As they fly, the island appears ahead like a green jewel rising from the waves. Isla Nublar is larger than it first appears, with rolling hills covered in dense jungle vegetation. Waterfalls cascade down rocky cliffs, creating white ribbons against the green backdrop. Birds fly alongside the helicopter, some in formations, others alone, all seeming to welcome visitors to their domain. The helicopter pilot expertly navigates around the island's perimeter, giving everyone a view of the pristine beaches where waves gently kiss the shore. Palm trees sway in the tropical breeze, and everything feels untouched by modern civilization. It's a place where time seems to move differently, where the natural world reigns supreme. Also on this flight is Dr. Ian Malcolm, a mathematician and chaos theorist who specializes in complex systems. Malcolm is an interesting character. He wears all black, has an unconventional way of speaking, and seems to find humor in the most serious situations. He talks about mathematical concepts like fractals and unpredictability as if they're old friends. His presence brings a different energy to the group, one that questions control and prediction. Malcolm often speaks in what seem like riddles, making observations about how complex systems tend to break down, how small changes can have massive consequences. He's charming in his own way, but there's always an underlying caution in his words. He seems to understand something about the nature of chaos that others don't quite grasp. And there's Donald Gennaro, a lawyer representing the investors who have funded Hammond's project. Gennaro is practical, focused on liability and safety concerns. He's the type of person who reads the fine print and worries about insurance coverage. He's not particularly interested in the science or the wonder of what they're about to see. He's there to make sure the park is safe enough to avoid lawsuits. Together they land on Isla Nublar, stepping off the helicopter onto a modern landing pad that seems almost out of place in the jungle setting. The air is immediately different, humid and thick, filled with the rich scents of tropical vegetation. Everything smells fresh, earthy, and alive in a way that's both familiar and exotic. The sounds are different, too. Instead of the familiar chirping of birds they know, there are strange calls echoing through the trees. Some are melodic, almost musical, while others are deeper, more mysterious. The jungle seems to pulse with life, creating a natural symphony that's both beautiful and slightly unsettling. They climb into open-air jeeps that are designed for touring. These aren't ordinary vehicles. They're specially built for the park, with comfortable seating and a clear view in all directions. The jeeps are electric, moving quietly through the jungle without the noise of gasoline engines. As they drive, the path winds through corridors of green. Trees arch overhead, creating a natural tunnel effect. Vines hang down like curtains, and shafts of sunlight filter through the canopy, creating patterns of light and shadow on the road ahead. The air is filled with the sound of insects and the distant calls of unseen creatures. The group talks quietly among themselves, everyone wondering what Hammond has brought them to see. The anticipation builds with each turn of the path. Grant finds himself studying the vegetation, noting plants that seem somehow different from what he'd expect in a typical Central American jungle. Then, without warning, the jeep slows down. The driver, a park employee, seems to be looking for something specific. Dr. Grant notices the change in pace and turns his head to scan the area. His trained eye, used to spotting small details in rock formations, begins to pick up movement in the distance. His eyes widen slowly. Something large is moving among the trees, something that doesn't quite fit with his understanding of what should be there. He stands up slowly in the jeep, not speaking, barely breathing. The movement is too deliberate, too large, too impossible to be what his mind is telling him it might be. In the distance, beyond a small lagoon surrounded by reeds, something extraordinary moves through the landscape. It's a dinosaur, not a fossil, not a museum display, but a real, living, breathing dinosaur. The creature is a Brachiosaurus, a gentle giant that towers over the tallest trees. Its long neck stretches gracefully upward as it feeds on leaves from a tree that most animals could never reach. The dinosaur moves with a slow, deliberate grace, each step carefully placed, each movement purposeful and calm. The group falls into complete silence. Dr. Grant's scientific mind struggles to process what he's seeing. This creature, which he's only known through fossilized bones and artistic reconstructions, is alive and moving before his eyes. Dr. Sattler reaches instinctively for Alan's hand, her usual confidence momentarily replaced by pure amazement. Even Dr. Malcolm, usually quick with a quip or observation, finds himself speechless. The mathematical probability of what they're witnessing seems impossible. Yet here it is, defying all expectations. John Hammond watches their reactions with obvious delight. His eyes sparkle with the joy of someone who has just revealed the most wonderful secret. He's been waiting for this moment, planning it, imagining how it would feel to see the wonder in their faces. He speaks quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might break the spell of the moment. Welcome to Jurassic Park. The words hang in the air like a benediction. The jeep begins to move forward again, but slowly, reverently, as if they're driving through a cathedral of time itself. As they continue along the path, more dinosaurs come into view. In peaceful fields that stretch toward distant hills, other creatures graze and move about their daily lives. There are triceratops, their massive heads crowned with impressive horns and bony frills, moving in small groups across the grassland. Each one is unique, with slightly different colorations and patterns, just like animals in the wild. Gallimimus move in graceful herds, their long necks and legs giving them an almost bird-like appearance as they run across the open spaces. They move with a fluid motion that speaks of millions of years of evolution, perfectly adapted to their environment. Near a small pond, Parasaurolophus bend their long necks to drink, their distinctive crests catching the sunlight. Occasionally, one lifts its head and makes a haunting, musical call that echoes across the landscape, a sound that hasn't been heard on Earth for millions of years. Each dinosaur moves naturally, unhurried, as if they've been living on this island forever. They don't seem like attractions or exhibits. They seem like wild animals living freely in their natural habitat, completely at ease in their environment. Eventually, the group arrives at the visitor center, the heart of Hammond's operation. It's a large, modern building that manages to blend contemporary architecture with natural elements. The structure is built into the landscape rather than imposed upon it, with large glass windows that offer views of the surrounding jungle and open spaces where dinosaurs can be observed in their habitats. Inside, the visitor center is a marvel of modern design and scientific achievement. The halls are spacious and filled with natural light. Interactive displays show the complex process of genetic engineering that made the park possible. Everything is clean, organized, and designed to inspire both wonder and confidence. Hammond leads them to a presentation room where he explains the science behind his miracle. The story begins millions of years ago, when mosquitoes fed on dinosaur blood and then became trapped in tree sap. Over time, that sap hardened into amber, preserving the mosquitoes and the dinosaur DNA in their stomachs. Scientists working for Hammond's company, InGen, extracted this ancient DNA and used it to create living dinosaurs. The room is filled with soft lighting and comfortable seating, making the incredible story feel somehow intimate and believable. The presentation includes footage of the laboratory where the dinosaurs are created, showing scientists in clean white coats working with microscopic precision. There are glimpses of eggs in incubators, of baby dinosaurs taking their first steps, of the careful nurturing process that brings these ancient creatures into the modern world. Some of the visitors are amazed by the scientific achievement. The idea that life could be brought back from extinction is both thrilling and humbling. Others, particularly Dr. Malcolm, are more cautious about the implications of what they're seeing. Malcolm raises questions about the ethics and safety of the project. He speaks about chaos theory, about how complex systems are inherently unpredictable. He suggests that nature has its own ways of working, and that human attempts to control natural processes often lead to unintended consequences. But Hammond remains confident and optimistic. He believes that science, properly applied, can create wonders that benefit all of humanity. He sees his park as a way to educate people about the natural world, to inspire a new generation of scientists and conservationists. The discussion continues as they explore more of the visitor center. They see the control room where the park's operations are monitored, the genetics lab where the dinosaurs are created, and the nursery where young dinosaurs are cared for until they're ready to be released into the park. As the day begins to fade, the group finds themselves on a balcony overlooking the park. The sky gradually transforms from blue to orange to pink as the sun sets behind the rolling hills. The transition is slow and peaceful, with colors bleeding across the sky like watercolors on wet paper. Below them, the park's gentle lighting system begins to activate. Soft lights illuminate the pathways and viewing areas without being harsh or intrusive. The lighting is designed to blend with the natural environment, providing safety and visibility while maintaining the magic of the setting. In the distance, they can see dinosaurs settling in for the night. Some gather in small groups, others find solitary spots to rest. The sounds of the day gradually give way to the different sounds of evening. Night birds calling, insects chirping, and the gentle sounds of large creatures moving slowly through the landscape. The air is warm and pleasant, carrying the scents of tropical flowers and the freshness of the nearby ocean. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves, the trees, creating a soft, rustling sound that adds to the evening's peaceful atmosphere. Dr. Grant and Dr. Sattler stand together, still processing what they've seen. The reality of living dinosaurs is slowly sinking in, changing their understanding of what's possible in the world. For scientists who have spent their careers studying ancient life through fossils, seeing these creatures alive and moving is both thrilling and overwhelming. Dr. Malcolm continues to express his concerns, but even he seems affected by the beauty and tranquility of the moment. The island has a way of making visitors feel like they're part of something larger than themselves, something that connects them to the deep history of life on Earth. As the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky, the group prepares to retire for the night. Tomorrow, they'll take a more detailed tour of the park, seeing more dinosaurs and learning more about how the complex ecosystem has been created and maintained. The island settles into peaceful quiet, with only the gentle sounds of night creatures and the distant whisper of waves against the shore. Everything feels safe, controlled, and magical. It's a place where dreams have become reality, where the impossible has been made possible through human ingenuity and scientific achievement. Part 2. Touring the park, the Velociraptor enclosure. The next morning arrives with the soft light of dawn filtering through the jungle canopy. The air is fresh and cool, carrying the promise of another warm day. Birds call from the trees, and the island seems to wake up gradually, peacefully. After a quiet breakfast at the visitor center, Hammond leads the group to see one of the park's most impressive attractions, the Velociraptor enclosure. This facility is different from the open spaces where the gentle giants roam freely. It's a high-security area, surrounded by tall electric fences and monitored by cameras and sensors. The raptors, Hammond explains, are among the most intelligent dinosaurs ever discovered. They're also among the most dangerous. Unlike the peaceful herbivores they saw yesterday, these creatures are hunters, evolved for speed, intelligence, and cooperation. They can't be allowed to roam freely with the other dinosaurs or with visitors. The enclosure is built like a fortress, with concrete walls topped by electric fencing. The area inside is designed to simulate the raptor's natural habitat, with dense vegetation, rocky outcroppings, and plenty of space to move and hunt. But every entrance is secured, every barrier is monitored, and every precaution has been taken to ensure that these dangerous predators remain safely contained. As they approach the viewing area, they can hear sounds from within the enclosure. Not the gentle calls of the herbivores, but sharper, more predatory sounds. There's an intelligence in these sounds, a communication between the raptors that suggests complex social behavior. The park's game warden, Robert Muldoon, joins them at the enclosure. He's a serious man with the bearing of someone who understands danger and respects it. He's spent years working with dangerous animals in Africa, and he treats the raptors with the same careful respect he'd give to lions or tigers. Muldoon explains that the raptors are fed by crane, with food lowered into the enclosure from above. No human ever enters the raptor area directly. The animals are too intelligent, too unpredictable, and too dangerous for direct contact. Even feeding time is carefully choreographed to minimize risk. The visitors watch as the feeding process begins. A large piece of meat is lowered into the enclosure on a cable. Almost immediately, the vegetation begins to rustle as the raptors move towards their food. The movements are coordinated, suggesting that these animals hunt as a pack, working together with sophisticated tactics. Dr. Grant, with his expertise in dinosaur behavior, is fascinated by what he observes. The raptors demonstrate problem-solving abilities and social cooperation that exceeds what he'd expected based on fossil evidence. These aren't just primitive killing machines, they're intelligent predators with complex behaviors. Dr. Malcolm watches the proceedings with his usual skeptical eye. He makes observations about how the raptors seem to be testing the fences, probing for weaknesses. He suggests that truly intelligent predators would be constantly looking for ways to escape, always learning, always adapting. After the raptor demonstration, the group prepares for a comprehensive tour of the park. The 2 specially designed tour vehicles are brought forward, sleek, modern cars that run on electric power and move along a predetermined track system. The cars are equipped with interactive displays and recorded narration that will guide them through the various areas of the park. The vehicles are designed for comfort and safety, with large windows that provide excellent visibility and climate control to keep passengers comfortable in the tropical heat. Each car can hold 4 people, so the group is split between the 2 vehicles. Dr. Grant and Dr. Sattler ride in the first car with Hammond's grandchildren, Tim and Lex, who have arrived on the island for a visit with their grandfather. Tim is a young boy fascinated by computers and dinosaurs, while Lex is his younger sister, bright and curious about everything around her. In the second car, Dr. Malcolm rides with Gennaro, the lawyer, who is still focused on liability issues and safety concerns. The cars are connected by radio, allowing the passengers to communicate with each other and with the control room during the tour. As the tour begins, the cars move smoothly along the track, which winds through different sections of the park. Each area is designed to showcase different types of dinosaurs in environments that closely match their original habitats. The track is elevated in some areas, providing better views, and runs at ground level in others for more intimate encounters with the animals. The first stop is the Dilophosaurus paddock, home to a pair of medium-sized predators known for their distinctive twin crests. The recorded narration explains that these dinosaurs were hunters, but not as large or dangerous as the raptors. They're kept in a secure area with high fences, but they're occasionally visible to tour groups. However, when the cars reach the Dilophosaurus area, the paddock appears empty. The dinosaurs are nowhere to be seen, perhaps resting in the shade or hidden in the vegetation. This is one of the challenges of any wildlife park. The animals don't always cooperate with tour schedules. The cars continue on to the next area, passing through a tunnel that leads to a different section of the island. As they emerge from the tunnel, they find themselves in a vast open area where some of the park's most impressive herbivores make their home. The tour takes an unexpected turn when they come across a sick triceratops lying in a field. The massive creature, normally active and alert, is lying on its side, breathing heavily. Its usual vibrant coloration seems muted, and it's clearly in distress. Dr. Sattler immediately asks to stop and examine the animal. As a paleobotanist, she's particularly interested in understanding how these ancient animals interact with their environment, including what they eat and how their digestive systems work. The tour cars stop, and Dr. Sattler gets out to examine the sick dinosaur. The Triceratops is enormous up close, much larger than any modern land animal. Its skin is thick and textured, and its breathing is labored but regular. Despite its illness, the creature is still magnificent, a living testament to the incredible diversity of life that once existed on Earth. Dr. Sattler works carefully around the animal, examining its eyes, checking its breathing, and looking for any obvious signs of what might be wrong. The park's veterinarian joins them, explaining that the Triceratops has been sick for several days, and they haven't been able to determine the cause. While examining the area around the sick dinosaur, Dr. Sattler notices something interesting. Scattered around the field are smooth stones, much smoother than the typical rocks found on the island. She recognizes these as gastroliths, stones that large herbivores swallow to help grind up plant material in their stomachs. Near the gastroliths, she also notices some unusual berries. These berries don't look like anything that should be growing on the island naturally. She suspects the Triceratops might have eaten something toxic, perhaps these berries, which could be causing its illness. Her examination of the sick animal provides insights into how these ancient creatures lived and what they needed to survive. It's a reminder that bringing dinosaurs back to life isn't just about genetic engineering. It's also about understanding their biology, their behavior, and their needs. While Dr. Sattler examines the sick Triceratops, the rest of the group has time to discuss what they've seen so far. The conversation naturally turns to the risks and challenges of the park. Dr. Malcolm continues to express his concerns about the project. He talks about complex systems and how they tend to break down in unexpected ways. He suggests that trying to control nature is ultimately futile, that life finds ways to exceed human expectations and break free from human constraints. Hammond, however, remains optimistic. He points out all the safety measures that have been put in place, the redundant systems, the careful monitoring. He's confident that modern technology and careful planning can prevent any serious problems. The debate between Malcolm and Hammond represents a fundamental disagreement about humanity's relationship with nature. Hammond believes that science and technology can be used to create controlled, safe environments where people can experience the wonders of the natural world. Malcolm believes that nature is inherently unpredictable and that attempts to control it often lead to unintended consequences. Gennaro, the lawyer, is primarily concerned with practical matters. He wants to know about insurance coverage, liability issues, and what happens if something goes wrong. His questions are less philosophical and more focused on the legal and financial implications of the park. Dr. Grant finds himself somewhere in the middle of these discussions. As a scientist, he's amazed by what Hammond has accomplished and excited about the possibilities for research and education. But he's also aware of the potential dangers, particularly after seeing the intelligence and predatory instincts of the raptors. The conversation is interrupted when Dr. Sattler returns from her examination of the sick Triceratops. She shares her findings about the possible cause of the illness and her observations about the dinosaur's behavior and biology. As the afternoon progresses, the weather begins to change. Dark clouds gather on the horizon, and the wind picks up, stirring the vegetation and creating a sense of unease among the wildlife. The park's weather monitoring systems indicate that a tropical storm is approaching the island. Hammond assures everyone that the park is designed to handle severe weather. The buildings are built to withstand hurricane-force winds, the electrical systems are protected, and the dinosaur enclosures are secure. The storm shouldn't pose any serious threat to the park or its visitors. However, as a precaution, some of the park's non-essential personnel are evacuated to the mainland. The boat that brought supplies to the island departs early, taking most of the staff with it. Only a skeleton crew remains to maintain the park's essential systems during the storm. The approaching storm adds a sense of urgency to the tour. The group needs to complete their visit and make their safety recommendations before the weather becomes too severe. The plan is to finish the tour, have dinner at the visitor center, and then make their departure recommendations. But storms in the tropics can be unpredictable, and this one is moving faster than expected. The wind continues to increase, and the first drops of rain begin to fall. The sky darkens, and the gentle sounds of the island are replaced by the growing roar of wind and weather. Despite the approaching storm, the tour continues. The cars are designed to handle wet weather, and the passengers are protected from the rain. The track system is built to function safely, even in severe weather conditions. As they drive through the park, the rain begins to fall more heavily. It starts as a gentle tropical shower, but quickly intensifies into a steady downpour. The sound of rain on the car roofs creates a rhythmic drumming, and the windows fog up from the humidity. The rain transforms the landscape, making everything look different. The vegetation becomes more lush and vibrant, and streams of water begin to flow along the paths and through the jungle. The dinosaurs seem largely unaffected by the weather, continuing their daily activities as if the rain is a natural and expected part of their environment. The tour track takes them through different elevations and environments. They pass through forested areas where the rain creates a canopy overhead, and through open areas where they can see the storm clouds gathering strength. Lightning begins to flash in the distance, and thunder rumbles across the island. Tim, Hammond's grandson, is particularly excited by the storm. He's fascinated by the electronics in the tour car and keeps trying to access the vehicle's computer system. His sister Lex is less enthusiastic about the weather, but she's still curious about the dinosaurs they're seeing. Dr. Grant finds himself becoming more protective of the children as the weather worsens. His paternal instincts are awakened, and he begins to worry about their safety. The storm is becoming more severe than anyone expected, and he wonders if they should return to the visitor center immediately. As the storm intensifies, the first signs of trouble begin to appear. The tour cars, which have been running smoothly on their automated track system, begin to experience intermittent power problems. The displays flicker occasionally, and the cars sometimes slow down or stop for brief periods before continuing. In the control room back at the visitor center, the park's systems are being monitored by a small crew of technicians. The storm is affecting the island's power grid, causing fluctuations in electrical supply. Backup generators are standing by, but the primary systems are struggling to maintain consistent power. Dennis Nedry, the park's computer programmer, is working at his station in the control room. He's been having disagreements with Hammond about his contract and compensation, and he's secretly planning to steal dinosaur embryos for a rival company. The storm provides the perfect cover for his plan. Nedry has been working on a complex computer program that will allow him to shut down the park's security systems temporarily, giving him access to the genetics lab where the embryos are stored. He's planned this carefully, timing his actions to coincide with the storm when everyone will be focused on weather-related problems. The power fluctuations caused by the storm mask Nedry's manipulation of the computer systems. As he begins to execute his plan, more systems begin to fail. The security cameras go offline, the electric fences begin to lose power, and the automated systems that control the park start to malfunction. At first, the problems seem minor and weather-related, but as more systems fail, it becomes clear that something more serious is happening. The tour cars lose power completely, stopping on the track in the middle of the park. The passengers are stranded in the rain, far from the safety of the visitor center. Part 3. The power goes out. The tour cars sit motionless on the track, their electronic systems completely dead. The rain continues to fall steadily, and darkness is beginning to settle over the island. The passengers are trapped in their vehicles, unable to move forward or backward on the automated track system. Dr. Grant tries to communicate with the control room using the car's radio, but there's no response. The communication systems are down, along with everything else. The silence is unsettling, broken only by the sound of rain and the distant rumble of thunder. In the control room, chaos is beginning to unfold. Nedry's sabotage has caused a cascade of system failures that are far more extensive than he intended. The security systems are offline, the electric fences have lost power, and the automated systems that monitor the dinosaurs are no longer functioning. Ray Arnold, the park's chief engineer, is frantically trying to restore power and bring the systems back online. He's a competent technician, but Nedry's sabotage has been carefully designed to be difficult to detect and reverse. The computer code is complex and hidden, and Arnold is struggling to understand what's gone wrong. Meanwhile, the power failure has serious consequences for the dinosaur enclosures. The electric fences that keep the dangerous predators contained are no longer functioning. The dinosaurs don't immediately realize this, but it's only a matter of time before they discover that the barriers that have confined them are no longer effective. The first to discover the power failure is the Tyrannosaurus rex. This massive predator has been kept in a large paddock near the tour route, separated from the track by a high electric fence. The T-Rex is an intelligent animal, and it has been testing the fence regularly, looking for any weakness or opportunity to escape. When the power goes out, the fence is no longer electrified. The T-Rex approaches the barrier and, finding no shock when it touches the fence, begins to push against it. The fence posts are strong, but they're not designed to withstand the full force of a 7-ton predator. The tour cars are stopped directly adjacent to the T-Rex paddock. The passengers can hear something large moving in the darkness beyond the fence. Dr. Grant realizes what's happening. The power failure has compromised the security systems, and the dinosaurs are no longer safely contained. The first sign of real danger comes when the fence posts begin to give way. The massive T-Rex pushes through the barrier, snapping the posts and tearing down the fence. The sound of breaking wood and metal carries clearly through the rain. In the first tour car, Dr. Grant tries to keep the children calm while assessing their situation. Tim and Lex are frightened, but trying to be brave. The car's emergency systems have failed along with everything else, and they're trapped inside with no way to escape or call for help. The second tour car, carrying Dr. Malcolm and Gennaro, is positioned slightly behind the first car on the track. From their position, they have a clear view of the T-Rex paddock and can see the massive predator emerging from its enclosure. The T-Rex is even more impressive and terrifying in person than anyone imagined. It stands nearly 20 feet tall, with massive jaws filled with teeth the size of railroad spikes. Its movements are deliberate and powerful, and there's an intelligence in its eyes that makes it even more dangerous. At first, the T-Rex seems curious about the strange objects on the track. It approaches the cars cautiously, using its keen senses to investigate these unfamiliar intruders in its territory. The massive head moves back and forth, and the creature's breathing creates clouds of vapor in the cool, humid air. Gennaro the lawyer panics when he sees the T-Rex approaching. He abandons Dr. Malcolm in the second car and runs toward a nearby bathroom facility, leaving Malcolm alone and injured. Malcolm has been hurt when Gennaro's sudden departure caused him to fall awkwardly in the car. The T-Rex notices the movement and is attracted by Gennaro's flight. Predators are naturally drawn to movement, and the lawyer's panicked run triggers the dinosaur's hunting instincts. The massive creature follows Gennaro, moving with surprising speed for something so large. Dr. Grant realizes that staying in the cars is no longer safe. The T-Rex is focused on the second car and the fleeing lawyer, but it's only a matter of time before it turns its attention to the first car where he and the children are trapped. He makes a difficult decision. Moving quietly and carefully, he gets the children out of the first car and leads them away from the track. They move slowly through the rain, trying not to attract the Trex's attention. The darkness and the sound of the storm help to conceal their movement. Finding shelter becomes the immediate priority. Grant leads Tim and Lex to a large tree with a sturdy trunk that provides some protection from both the rain and potential predators. They huddle together under the tree, trying to stay warm and dry while staying hidden. The children are frightened, but remarkably resilient. Tim, despite his youth, tries to be brave and help his sister. Lex, though scared, follows Dr. Grant's instructions and stays quiet. Grant finds himself becoming more protective of them, his scientific detachment replaced by genuine concern for their safety. From their hiding place, they can hear the T-Rex in the distance, still investigating the area around the tour cars. The sound of metal being crushed and glass breaking suggests that the massive predator is destroying the vehicles, either out of curiosity or frustration. Dr. Grant knows that they can't stay in their current location indefinitely. The T-Rex might discover them, or other predators might be drawn to the area. They need to find better shelter and try to make their way back to the visitor center. But the journey will be dangerous, especially in the dark and the storm. With no other choice, Dr. Grant decides to lead the children through the jungle towards the visitor center. The journey will be dangerous, but staying in the open near the tour route is even more risky. At least in the jungle, they'll have cover and concealment. The jungle at night is a different world from the peaceful, sunlit paradise they experience during the day. Every shadow could hide a predator. Every sound could signal danger. The rain makes everything slippery and difficult to navigate, and the darkness makes it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Grant uses his knowledge of paleontology and animal behavior to guide them safely through the dangerous terrain. He knows that most predators are opportunistic, looking for easy prey rather than actively hunting in difficult conditions. By moving quietly and avoiding open areas, they have a better chance of reaching safety undetected. The children follow him closely, stepping where he steps, staying silent when he signals for quiet. Tim carries a small flashlight from the tour car, but Grant instructs him to use it sparingly. Light could attract unwanted attention from predators who might be hunting in the darkness. As they move through the jungle, they encounter signs of the park's other inhabitants. They hear the distant calls of herbivores settling in for the night, the rustling of smaller creatures moving through the undergrowth, and occasionally the more ominous sounds of larger predators in the distance. The path through the jungle is not easy. Fallen logs block their way, forcing them to climb over or around obstacles. Streams swollen by the rain must be crossed carefully to avoid slipping on wet rocks. The vegetation is thick and sometimes impenetrable, requiring them to find alternate routes. Despite the dangers and difficulties, there's something almost magical about moving through the prehistoric landscape. Grant finds himself marveling at the sounds and smells of this ancient world brought back to life. The children, despite their fear, are also fascinated by the experience of walking among living dinosaurs. They discover that the island's ecosystem is more complex than they initially realized. The herbivores have established territories and migration patterns. The predators have learned to avoid the electric fences and have developed hunting strategies adapted to the island environment. Life has indeed found a way to adapt and thrive. The journey through the jungle is slow and exhausting. The rain continues to fall, making everything slippery and uncomfortable. The children are tired and scared, but they continue to follow Dr. Grant's lead without complaint. As they move deeper into the island's interior, they begin to encounter more signs of the power failure's consequences. Other electric fences have failed, and they can see evidence that various dinosaur species are moving beyond their designated areas. The carefully controlled ecosystem that Hammond created is beginning to break down. They come across a group of Gallimimus that have wandered far from their usual territory. These large, ostrich-like dinosaurs are usually gentle, but they're agitated and nervous. Something has spooked them, and they're moving in a panicked herd toward an unknown destination. Grant realizes that the breakdown of the park's systems has created a dangerous situation for both predators and prey. The herbivores are confused and displaced, while the predators are taking advantage of the chaos to hunt in new areas. The entire island is becoming unstable. They find temporary shelter in a large fallen tree that provides protection from the rain and concealment from potential predators. Grant uses this opportunity to rest and plan their next move. The visitor center is still several miles away, and the journey is becoming more dangerous as more dinosaurs move beyond their normal territories. While they rest, Tim shares his knowledge of the park's computer systems. He's been fascinated by the technology since arriving on the island and has been paying attention to how everything works. His information helps Grant understand how the park's systems are interconnected and why the power failure has had such widespread consequences. Lex, despite being younger, proves to be remarkably resourceful. She notices things that the adults miss and helps them avoid several potentially dangerous encounters with wildlife. Her small size also allows her to move through dense vegetation more easily than the adults. Raptors in the dark. As they continue their journey, they encounter an even more serious threat. The velociraptors have also escaped from their enclosure and are now hunting freely on the island. Unlike the T-Rex, which hunts primarily by opportunity, the raptors are systematic, intelligent, and work as a coordinated pack. The first sign of the raptors comes as a series of calls echoing through the jungle. These aren't the random sounds of animals going about their business. They're purposeful communications between pack members, coordinating their movements and sharing information about potential prey. Grant recognizes the danger immediately. He's studied raptor behavior and knows that these dinosaurs are among the most dangerous predators that ever lived. They're not just physically formidable. They're intelligent problem solvers who can adapt their hunting strategies to new situations. He leads the children to a more secure hiding place, a rocky outcropping that provides multiple escape routes and good visibility in all directions. They move carefully and quietly, avoiding any action that might attract the raptors' attention. From their hiding place, they can hear the raptors moving through the jungle, systematically searching the area. The pack is working together, with some members driving potential prey toward others who are waiting in ambush. It's a sophisticated hunting strategy that demonstrates their intelligence and coordination. The children are terrified, but follow Grant's instructions to remain absolutely still and quiet. Any movement or sound could attract the raptors' attention, and once these predators focus on prey, they're relentless in their pursuit. The waiting seems to last forever. The rain continues to fall, and the sounds of the raptor pack grow closer and then fade away as they move through their territory. Grant knows that the raptors are testing the area, looking for any sign of prey or weakness. Hiding in the visitor center. After what feels like hours, the raptor sounds fade into the distance, and Grant decides it's safe to continue moving. They're getting closer to the visitor center, but the final approach will be the most dangerous part of their journey. The visitor center is located in a relatively open area, with less natural cover than the deep jungle. They'll have to cross several open spaces where they'll be vulnerable to predators. The building itself should be secure, but reaching it safely will require careful planning and timing. As they approach the edge of the jungle, they can see the visitor center in the distance. The building is dark, indicating that the power failure has affected this area as well. Emergency lighting provides minimal illumination, creating pools of light surrounded by darkness. Grant decides to wait until they can observe the area around the building and ensure that no predators are nearby. They find a position where they can watch the visitor center and plan their approach. The rain has begun to ease, but the storm clouds still block most of the moonlight. After careful observation, they make their move. They dash across the open areas quickly, using whatever cover is available. The children are exhausted, but find the energy to run when necessary. They reach the visitor center without incident, and find that the main entrance is unlocked. Inside the building, they discover that the emergency power systems are providing minimal lighting and climate control. The building feels safe and secure after their ordeal in the jungle, but they know that safety is relative. The power failure has compromised many of the building's security systems. They make their way to the main hall, where they hope to find other survivors and working communication equipment. The building seems deserted, but they can hear sounds from other parts of the complex that suggest other people are present. Part 4. Escaping the island, Ellie fixes the power. While Dr. Grant and the children were making their dangerous journey through the jungle, Dr. Ellie Sattler was dealing with her own challenges back at the visitor center. When the power first failed, she was with John Hammond in the bunker-like control room, where they were monitoring the park's systems. The control room, designed to be the nerve center of the entire operation, had become a scene of controlled chaos. Ray Arnold, the chief engineer, was working frantically at multiple computer terminals, trying to understand what had gone wrong with the park's systems. His face was illuminated by the glow of emergency monitors, and his fingers moved rapidly across keyboards as he attempted to bring the systems back online. Hammond paced nervously behind the technicians, his usual confidence shaken by the magnitude of the crisis. The park that he had envisioned as a controlled paradise was falling apart, and the safety of his guests, including his own grandchildren, was at risk. Dr. Sattler, despite not being a computer expert, offered to help in any way she could. Her scientific background and problem-solving skills made her a valuable addition to the team, trying to restore order to the chaos. Arnold explained that the power failure appeared to be the result of deliberate sabotage rather than a simple weather-related malfunction. Someone had accessed the park's computer systems and systematically shut down critical functions. The code was complex and well hidden, making it difficult to reverse the damage. The most critical issue was the failure of the electric fences that contained the dangerous predators. Without power to these barriers, the park's most dangerous inhabitants were free to roam throughout the island. The longer the power remained off, the more dangerous the situation became. Arnold attempted to restore power by rebooting the entire system, but this process was complicated by the sabotage. Each time he thought he had found and fixed the problem, another system would fail. It became clear that a more drastic solution would be needed. The park's auxiliary power systems were located in a separate building, connected to the main facility by underground cables. These backup generators could provide enough power to restore the essential systems, but someone would have to manually activate them. The trip to the auxiliary building would be dangerous, requiring a journey across the compound in darkness, while predators roamed freely. Dr. Sattler volunteered to make the dangerous journey to the auxiliary power station. Despite Hammond's protests about the danger, she insisted that she was the most capable person available for the task. Her knowledge of the park's layout and her scientific training made her the logical choice. Robert Muldoon, the park's game warden, agreed to accompany her partway and provide what protection he could. He armed himself with a high-powered rifle and prepared for what he knew would be a dangerous mission. The journey to the auxiliary building required crossing several open areas where they would be vulnerable to attack. Muldoon led the way, using his experience with dangerous animals to guide them safely through the compound. They moved carefully, stopping frequently to listen for sounds that might indicate the presence of predators. The auxiliary building was a utilitarian structure, housing the backup generators and electrical switching equipment. Inside, Dr. Sattler found the manual controls for the park's power systems. The generators were functional, but the switching systems required careful adjustment to restore power to the critical areas of the park. Working by the light of emergency flashlights, she methodically went through the process of bringing the auxiliary systems online. Each switch and circuit breaker had to be activated in the correct sequence to avoid overloading the restored systems. Final raptor attack. While Dr. Sattler worked to restore power, the situation at the visitor center was becoming increasingly dangerous. The velociraptors had discovered that the building's security systems were offline and had begun to investigate the structure as a potential hunting ground. Dr. Grant and the children, who had taken refuge in the main hall, began to hear sounds that indicated they were no longer alone in the building. The raptors had found a way inside and were systematically searching the facility. The visitor center, despite its modern construction and security features, had not been designed to keep out determined predators when its electronic systems were offline. The raptors, with their intelligence and problem-solving abilities, had found weaknesses in the building's defenses. The pack had split up to search different areas of the building. This hunting strategy would allow them to cover more ground and prevent potential prey from escaping. The raptors communicated with each other through a series of calls and clicks, coordinating their search pattern. Dr. Grant realized that staying in the main hall would be dangerous. The open space provided no concealment, and if the raptors discovered them there would be no escape route. He led the children to a more secure area of the building, looking for somewhere they could hide or defend themselves. They found refuge in the park's kitchen, a large room with multiple entrances and exits, as well as plenty of places to hide among the equipment and storage areas. The kitchen's stainless steel surfaces reflected the emergency lighting, creating a maze of shadows and light that could provide concealment. The children, exhausted from their ordeal but still alert with fear, followed Dr. Grant's whispered instructions. They moved quietly among the kitchen equipment, trying to find the best hiding places while staying ready to run if discovered. The first raptor entered the kitchen cautiously, its head moving back and forth as it scanned the room. The creature's intelligence was evident in the way it systematically searched the space, checking each potential hiding place methodically. Tim and Lex hid behind a large industrial refrigerator, trying to control their breathing and remain perfectly still. The raptor moved closer, its keen senses picking up traces of human scent in the air. The children could hear its claws clicking on the tile floor as it approached their hiding place. Dr. Grant positioned himself where he could try to distract the raptor if it discovered the children. He had no weapons, but he was prepared to do whatever was necessary to protect Tim and Lex. Escape through the vents. The kitchen confrontation with the raptor created a desperate situation that required quick thinking and courage. As the intelligent predator closed in on their hiding place, Tim noticed something that the adults had missed: a ventilation grate near the ceiling that was large enough for the children to crawl through. The building's ventilation system offered a potential escape route, but reaching the grate would require climbing up kitchen equipment while avoiding the raptor's attention. It was a dangerous plan, but it might be their only chance to escape the immediate threat. Dr. Grant created a distraction by moving to the opposite side of the kitchen, drawing the raptor's attention away from the children. The predator immediately focused on the movement, stalking toward Grant with predatory intent. While the raptor was distracted, Tim and Lex quickly climbed up the kitchen equipment to reach the ventilation grate. Tim used his small size and agility to remove the grate cover, and both children squeezed into the narrow ventilation shaft. The ventilation system was a network of metal ducts that connected different areas of the building. It was dark, cramped, and uncomfortable, but it provided concealment from the raptors. The children could move through the ducts to other parts of the building, while staying hidden from the predators. Dr. Grant, meanwhile, had to deal with the raptor that was now focused entirely on him. Using his knowledge of animal behavior, he tried to avoid direct confrontation while looking for an opportunity to escape. The kitchen's layout provided some cover, but the raptor was persistent and intelligent. The children's movement through the ventilation system was slow and difficult. The metal ducts were barely large enough for them to crawl through, and the darkness made navigation challenging. They had to rely on their sense of direction and the building's layout to find their way to safety. From inside the ventilation system, they could hear the sounds of the confrontation between Dr. Grant and the raptor. The kitchen equipment was being overturned as the predator pursued its intended prey. The children wanted to help, but they knew that their best chance was to find another way out of the building. Grant protects the kids. The confrontation in the kitchen reached a critical point when Dr. Grant realized that he couldn't indefinitely evade the raptor in the confined space. The intelligent predator was learning his movement patterns and systematically cutting off his escape routes. Using his understanding of the building's layout, Grant managed to lead the raptor away from the area where the children had entered the ventilation system. He moved through the kitchen and into adjacent areas, trying to put as much distance as possible between himself and the children's escape route. The raptor followed persistently, but Grant's knowledge of the building gave him a slight advantage. He had studied the visitor center's layout during their earlier tour, and knew where the emergency exits and stairways were located. Meanwhile, Tim and Lex were making progress through the ventilation system. The ducts led them to different parts of the building, and they could see into various rooms through ventilation grills. The building appeared to be largely empty, except for the raptors that were still searching for prey. They eventually reached a section of the ventilation system that opened into the main computer control room. This was the nerve center of the park's operations, and if they could reach it safely, they might be able to help restore the park's systems. The control room was in emergency mode, with red lighting and warning indicators showing that multiple systems were offline. The children could see computer terminals and control panels that might be used to restore power or call for help. Tim, with his knowledge of computers, realized that he might be able to help fix some of the park's problems. His fascination with technology and his natural aptitude for computers had given him insights into how the park's systems worked. However, getting from the ventilation system into the control room would be dangerous. They would have to drop down from the ceiling and risk being discovered by any raptors that might be in the area. Helicopter comes for rescue. While the drama was unfolding inside the visitor center, Dr. Sattler's efforts to restore power were beginning to show results. The auxiliary generators had come online, and electrical power was being restored to critical systems throughout the park. The most important systems to restore were the communications equipment and the emergency beacon that would signal the mainland that the park was in distress. These systems would allow the survivors to call for help and coordinate a rescue operation. As power returned to the communication systems, emergency signals began to reach the mainland. The Costa Rican authorities, who had been monitoring the situation due to the tropical storm, realized that something serious had happened on Isla Nublar. A rescue helicopter was dispatched from the mainland, equipped with medical supplies and personnel trained in emergency evacuation procedures. The helicopter crew was briefed on the unusual nature of the emergency, but was not fully prepared for what they would find on the island. The helicopter's approach to the island was complicated by the lingering effects of the storm. High winds and reduced visibility made flying dangerous, but the crew was experienced in emergency operations and determined to reach the survivors. Dr. Sattler, having successfully restored power to the essential systems, made her way back to the visitor center to coordinate with the other survivors. The restoration of power had reactivated many of the park's security systems, making the building safer, but not eliminating all the dangers. The electric fences were coming back online, but it would take time to round up the escaped dinosaurs and return them to their designated areas. The predators had scattered throughout the island and would not be easily contained. Everyone leaves the island. The rescue helicopter's arrival at Isla Nublar marked the beginning of the end of the Jurassic Park experiment. The pilot had difficulty finding a safe landing area due to the presence of large dinosaurs near the visitor center, but eventually managed to set down on the helipad. Inside the visitor center, the survivors were gathering in the main hall. Dr. Grant had managed to escape from the raptor and reunite with Tim and Lex. Dr. Sattler had returned from her mission to restore power. The small group represented all that remained of Hammond's ambitious vision. John Hammond, the man whose dream had created this prehistoric paradise, was notably absent from the group of survivors. His fate had been sealed earlier when he encountered one of the island's smaller predators while trying to reach safety. The man who had brought dinosaurs back to life had become a victim of his own creation. The evacuation was conducted quickly and efficiently. The helicopter crew helped load the survivors and prepared for immediate departure. There was no time to salvage equipment or research materials. The priority was getting everyone off the island as quickly as possible. Dr. Malcolm, who had been injured during the T-Rex encounter, was given medical attention and prepared for transport. Despite his injuries, he remained conscious and alert. His earlier warnings about the unpredictability of complex systems proven tragically correct. As the helicopter lifted off from the island, the survivors could see the extent of the chaos below. Dinosaurs were moving freely throughout the compound, and several facilities showed signs of damage from the night's events. The carefully controlled environment that Hammond had created was completely destroyed. The helicopter's departure from Isla Nublar was bittersweet. The survivors were relieved to be leaving the dangerous island, but they were also witnesses to the end of one of the most ambitious scientific projects ever attempted. Dr. Grant looked back at the island with mixed emotions. As a paleontologist, He had experienced something that no scientist had ever imagined possible: the chance to observe living dinosaurs in their natural behavior. The scientific value of what he had witnessed was immeasurable, but the cost in human terms had been too high. Dr. Sattler reflected on the lessons learned from the experience. Her examination of the sick Triceratops had provided valuable insights into dinosaur biology, but it had also revealed the complexity of maintaining these ancient creatures in a modern environment. The children, Tim and Lex, had shown remarkable courage and resilience throughout their ordeal. Their experience on the island had been traumatic, but it had also demonstrated their ability to adapt and survive in extraordinary circumstances. As the helicopter flew towards the mainland, the island gradually disappeared behind them. The green paradise that had seemed so beautiful and peaceful just days before was now a reminder of the dangers of trying to control nature. The Jurassic Park experiment was over, but its legacy would continue. The scientific knowledge gained from the project would advance understanding of genetics and paleobiology. The lessons learned about the unpredictability of complex systems would influence future research. The dinosaurs remained on the island, now free to establish their own ecosystem without human interference. Some would thrive in their new environment, while others might struggle to adapt. Nature would indeed find a way, as Dr. Malcolm had predicted. The helicopter disappeared into the distance, carrying its passengers toward safety and leaving Isla Nublar to return to the natural world. The sounds of the island, the calls of dinosaurs, the whisper of wind through ancient trees, the gentle lapping of waves against the shore, continued as they had for millions of years. In the end, John Hammond's dream of bringing the past to life had been realized, but not in the way he had envisioned. The dinosaurs had returned to Earth, but they would live on their own terms, not as attractions in a theme park, but as wild creatures in a world that was once again their own. The story of Jurassic Park serves as a reminder of both the wonders and the dangers of scientific advancement. It speaks to humanity's eternal fascination with the natural world and our desire to understand and control it. But it also warns of the consequences of hubris and the importance of respecting the power of nature. As our journey through this tale comes to an end, we're left with images of a world where the impossible became possible, where dreams and nightmares existed side by side, and where the ancient past came alive in ways both beautiful and terrifying. The island of Isla Nublar remains, somewhere in the Pacific, a reminder that life always finds a way.